Look like we have some very concerning updates about Caitlin Clark injury for this one
Today,
here.
we have got to talk about Caitlin Clark's injury, and most specifically, the reporting around Caitlin Clark's injury, because I feel like it is getting stranger by the day. It has been a month now that Caitlin has been out, and we still don't know when she will be returning to the court, if she will be returning.
The WNBA's biggest nightmare is unfolding right before our eyes. And what started as a simple groin strain has turned into the most controversial injury saga in women's basketball history. Caitlin Clark, the league's golden ticket to mainstream success, has been mysteriously absent for over a month, and now a connected journalist just dropped a bombshell update that has fans questioning everything they've been told. Are we witnessing an honest medical situation, or is this the biggest cover-up in WNBA history? Because what I'm about to reveal will change how you see this entire situation forever. Let me paint you the picture of how we got here, because this story is more twisted than anyone could have imagined. It was July 17th when Caitlin Clark last stepped foot on a WNBA court. And here's the thing that should terrify every basketball fan. That's over 30 days ago. 30 days! For a groin strain. Now, I've covered sports injuries for years, and I can tell you right now that a simple groin strain doesn't keep a professional athlete sidelined for over a month unless something has gone seriously wrong. The official word from the Indiana Fever?
First one to screenshot this, and Scott Agnes was replying to someone else's comment who said, "Just can't wait until Cece is back. She's the most dynamic, electric player in the WNBA. Great job, Lexi." And then Scott Agnes replied and he said, "Have patience.
Nothing to worry about. She'll be back soon." But here's where this gets absolutely insane. Every single piece of information we've received since then has been more confusing than the last. You want to know what's really happening behind closed doors? The Indiana Fever front office has been playing games with the public from day one. They've been feeding fans a steady diet of mixed signals that would make your head spin. One day they're saying she's day-to-day, the next they're listing her as a
beat reporter for the Indiana Fever. He has been covering them relentlessly all season, and we have gotten a lot of great information from Scott over the season. And I actually went to his YouTube channel and just kind of skimmed through the comments to see if there was anything else. There was one other reply where he was replying to someone and basically said, like, "You have to trust me," or "just trust me."
Decision, and then boom, she's out indefinitely. Meanwhile, the WNBA's injury reports aren't matching up with what the team is saying, and journalists who are supposed to be connected are dropping contradictory information left and right. This isn't just poor communication, this is a full-blown information crisis that suggests something much bigger is happening. But here's where this story takes a dark turn that nobody saw coming. The Fever have been listing Caitlin Clark as a game-time decision for multiple games, and fans aren't stupid, they know exactly what that label is designed to do. It's psychological manipulation at its finest. You slap game-time decision next to Caitlin Clark's name, and suddenly thousands of people are buying tickets, tuning in, hoping they'll witness her triumphant return. It's the oldest trick in the sports marketing.
Craziest thing about this last groin injury with Caitlin Clark is how it's been covered. The day after she had the groin injury, she was listed as day-to-day, and then a couple weeks after that, then she was listed to being out indefinitely. Now, ESPN had August 12th as the circled return date for Caitlin Clark to get back onto the court, and just yesterday, she was listed as a game-time decision for today's game against the Dallas Wings. And then after practice yesterday, Coach Stephanie White basically came out and said, like, no, Caitlin Clark hasn't even been practicing. So they changed it from a game time decision to her.
And they've been using it to milk every last dollar out of desperate fans who just want to see their favorite player back on the court. The pattern is so obvious it's insulting. Get people's hopes up, sell the tickets, then pull the rug out from under them at the last second. Now, enter Scott Agnes, and this is where things get really interesting. Agnes is a beat reporter with deep connections to the Indiana Fever organization, and he's been covering this team relentlessly all season. But here's the problem, Fever fans and Caitlin Clark supporters have had issues with this guy for months. They don't trust him, they don't like his tone, and they certainly don't appreciate what he just told them. When fans started getting excited about Clark's potential return, Agnes shut them down with the coldest, most deflating response possible. Have patience, at least several more weeks. Not she's progressing well, not we're optimistic. Just a flat, emotionless timeline that would push her return dangerously close to the end of the regular season. But wait, it gets worse. When people pressed him for more information, Agnes basically told them to trust him and left it at that. No explanation, no encouragement, just trust me. And here's why that's absolutely infuriating. This timeline completely contradicts what we've been hearing from inside the Fever camp. Multiple sources have reported that Clark has been running,
but several more weeks pretty much puts Caitlin Clark to coming back at the very end of the regular season. If you look at the Indiana Fever's schedule right now, they only have 12 games left, and there is exactly 4 weeks
full court for over a week, building her endurance, adding more on-court drills every single day. So why is a reporter with supposed inside connections telling everyone she's still weeks away from returning? Something doesn't add up, and fans are starting to connect dots that paint a very disturbing picture. Let me break down just how bizarre this injury progression has been, because when you look at it chronologically, nothing makes sense. The day after Clark suffered this groin injury, she was listed as day-to-day. That's medical speak for she'll probably be back in a few days, maybe a week at most. But then, a couple of weeks later, that day-to-day designation mysteriously transformed into out indefinitely. That's not how injuries work, people. You don't go from day-to-day to indefinitely unless something catastrophic has happened, or unless you're being deliberately deceptive about the severity of the situation. ESPN had August 12th circled on their calendar as Clark's return date. That date came and went without so much as an acknowledgement. Then, just yesterday, the Fever listed her as a game-time decision for their matchup against the Dallas Wings. Fans got excited, tickets were sold, hope was restored. And then, after practice, Coach Stephanie White dropped a bombshell that shattered everything. Caitlin Clark hadn't even been practicing with the team. They changed her status from game-time decision to definitively out, leaving thousands of fans feeling betrayed and manipulated. This is where the conspiracy theories start making sense, and trust me, I don't usually go down this path. But when you have an athlete who's been rapidly gaining muscle mass in the off-season to handle the WNBA's physical style of play, things can go wrong in ways most people don't understand. Adding bulk too fast can completely throw off your body's balance and equilibrium. It can put extra strain on joints and muscles that aren't prepared for the additional load. If Clark's body mechanics are even slightly off, that could explain why a simple groin strain has turned into a month-long absence. But here's what's really terrifying. If they rush her back before her body has fully adapted, we could be looking at a career-altering injury. Then there's the political angle that nobody wants to talk about, but everyone's thinking. Caitlin Clark isn't just a basketball player, she's a walking, talking revenue generator who single-handedly changed the trajectory of women's basketball. The WNBA has built their entire marketing strategy around her star power, and they might be playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. What if they're strategically timing her return for maximum impact? What if they want her back for a marquee matchup or a crucial playoff series where her return will generate the most headlines, the most viewership, the most money?
Caitlin Clark should not be thrown back into any mix if she doesn't have significant practices under her belt before she goes into game speed. You can try to simulate game speed as much as you want in practice. You will never be able to. Game speed is game speed. There's also a lot more adrenaline, all of these different things pumping when you're playing in front of a sold-out crowd that the Indiana Fever do every single night. If I'm their coach, she needs to practice for...
It sounds cynical, but let's be honest. Sports leagues have done exactly this kind of thing before. And with only 11 games left in the regular season, the math starts making sense in a very disturbing way. If they're playoff bound anyway, why risk re-injury in meaningless regular season games? Why not save her for when it matters most, when the entire basketball world will be watching? The problem is, this strategy treats fans like pawns in a business game rather than loyal supporters who deserve transparency. Coach Stephanie White has been the master of saying nothing while appearing to say something, and her press conferences have become exercises in frustration for anyone seeking real information. She'll admit that Clark is doing more running and movement, but she won't commit to a timeline. She'll say there's no timetable for return, which is technically true but tells you absolutely nothing. When someone asks when Clark might be back, White's response is always the same vague collection of non-answers that leave everyone more confused than when they started. Here's what's really scary about this whole situation: we're running out of time, and fast. The regular season ends on September 9th, which means there are only 4 weeks left at the time of this recording. If Scott Agnes is right about his several more weeks projection, Clark might not return until late August or early September. At that point, she could end up missing the entire regular season, coming back only for the playoffs, or potentially not returning at all this season. Think about that for a second. The WNBA's biggest star, in just her second year, missing the majority of her sophomore campaign due to what was initially described as a minor injury. The league's dependence on Clark has become so obvious that her absence creates a ripple effect throughout the entire WNBA ecosystem. The second she's out of the lineup, viewership numbers drop, social media engagement plummets, and casual fans tune out. She's not just a player, she's the difference between record-breaking television ratings and just another basketball game that most of America ignores. That level of dependence is exactly why some people believe her absence is being managed more like a television storyline than a legitimate sports injury. Think about it from a purely business perspective, because that's exactly what the WNBA executives are doing right now. Keep the audience guessing, maintain the suspense, then bring her back for the big season finale moment when everyone will be watching. It's manipulative, it's cynical, but it's also exactly the kind of strategy that modern sports entertainment employs to maximize engagement and revenue. The problem is that real people with real emotions are being jerked around in the process. What makes this even more suspicious is Clark's own silence throughout this entire ordeal. She hasn't been making public statements about wanting to return as soon as possible. She hasn't expressed frustration about being held back. She hasn't given fans any indication of how she's feeling or what her personal timeline looks like. That could mean she's completely on board with whatever plan the organization has laid out, or it could mean she's been advised to stay quiet while the adults in the room handle the messaging. Either way, her absence from the conversation forces fans to rely on second-hand reports from people like Scott Agnes. And when those reports feel negative or dismissive, frustration boils over into something much uglier. The Indiana Fever are currently fighting for playoff positioning without their star player, and every game without Clark makes their path more difficult. They've got upcoming matchups against teams they should beat, the Dallas Wings, the Washington Mystics, and other squads that a healthy Clark would help them dominate. But without her scoring, her playmaking, her ability to take over games in crucial moments, nothing is guaranteed. The offensive system that was built around her unique skill set looks completely different when she's not on the floor, and that's putting additional pressure on teammates who weren't prepared to carry this kind of load. Here's the historical context that makes this situation even more infuriating. Caitlin Clark has been targeted with physical play since the moment she stepped into the WNBA. From day one, opponents have been testing her, pushing the boundaries, seeing how much punishment she could take before the referees would step in. The league has been widely criticized for not doing enough to protect their biggest star, and now, if her season ends with her missing a huge chunk of games due to injury, those criticisms will turn into full-blown accusations. Fans are already saying it. The WNBA wanted all the marketing benefits of the Caitlin Clark phenomenon, but they failed to adequately protect their investment when it mattered most. The silence from Clark herself has become its own storyline, and her absence from public discourse is forcing fans to fill in the gaps with their own theories and speculation. Some believe she's fully supportive of the organization's cautious approach. Others think she's frustrated but has been told to keep quiet for legal or contractual reasons. The uncertainty is eating away at the fan base, and every day without a clear update feels like confirmation that something bigger and more complicated is happening behind closed doors. What we're witnessing right now is a complete breakdown of trust between the league, the team, and the fans who have supported them through everything. Fans don't trust the Indiana Fever to be honest about their star players' condition. They don't trust the WNBA to prioritize transparency over business interests. And they certainly don't trust certain reporters to give them objective, unbiased information about what's really happening. When trust erodes to this level, it doesn't matter what the truth actually is, the perception becomes the reality. And the perception right now is that everyone is hiding something. This isn't just about basketball anymore. This is about whether the WNBA is capable of responsibly handling their biggest star and most valuable asset. If they get this wrong, if Clark's injury situation turns into a season-ending disaster that could have been prevented, it won't just affect this year. It will be a permanent stain on how the league operates for years to come. The stakes couldn't be higher, the clock couldn't be ticking louder, and the pressure couldn't be more intense. So here's the million-dollar question that every WNBA fan needs to be asking right now. Is Caitlin Clark's injury really just a slow-healing groin strain, or are the league and the Indiana Fever front office hiding something much bigger and more serious than they're willing to admit? Because based on everything we've seen, everything we've been told, and everything that doesn't add up, I'm starting to think we're not getting the whole truth. And if that's the case, the fallout from this situation is going to be absolutely devastating for everyone involved. What do you think is really happening here? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because this story is far from over, and when the truth finally comes out, you're going to want to be part of the conversation that saw it coming from the very beginning.